I watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa, Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I watched a lot of basketball.
Five-time NBA champ Magic Johnson practically begged Caitlin Clark to seek some advice from Larry Legend.
And I think that he could give her great advice on how to handle this situation because he went through it himself.
And it's the refs, it's the commissioner of the league, it's some of the team owners. They are so stupid and so bad at their jobs in understanding what they have in Caitlin Clark, who is the face of the league.
Larry Bird may have just done what the entire WNBA refuses to do, and that's offer Caitlin Clark her own team. Yeah, you heard that right. Not an endorsement deal, not a pep talk, not a handshake and some vague "we're proud of you" nonsense. A whole team. Or at least that's what it sounds like if you connect the dots between Bird's latest scorching rant, Clark's treatment on the court, and the WNBA's complete inability to protect its one shining star.
Magic offered her some advice. He advised her to seek some advice from Indiana's own Larry Legend. Now, Larry Bird's easily regarded as one of the best NBA legends ever, so seeking advice from him wouldn't be a bad idea. Because just like Bird, Caitlin was not welcome to the big league with open arms.
Boom. More importantly, the league, the refs, you're going to let people take cheap shots like that over and over and over at the face of your league, the future of the league, the most important player in your league.
Is there a contract, a press release? Maybe not. But let's just say if Larry's got a blueprint stashed under that Celtics memorabilia in French Lick, we wouldn't be shocked. And honestly, it might be the only plan that makes sense right now. Because after watching Marina Mabrey nearly rearrange Clark's face with that blindside shove while she was still recovering from an eye poke.
Marina Mabrey, who if you don't know who that is, I've been watching the NBA for 2 years now? She's been on 32 different teams in 2 years. She cries, whines, leaves one team, goes to another, demands trade, shoots threes. She's an irrelevant journeyman. She runs up to Caitlin after the whistle, slams into her, knocks her down. Obvious ejection. An obvious ejection. Marina Mabrey, look in the mirror. The reason that you're going to have any money before the end of your career is number 2-2. Nobody even knew who you were or cared about you till she got in the league. So cheap shot her like that. What are you, dumb?
Bird apparently had enough. The man who once survived the Bad Boys Pistons without flinching is now acting like he just watched someone key a Bentley and walk away like it's no big deal. And his solution? Not to beg the league to change. Not to hold a summit with executives. No, Larry's ready to grab a clipboard, a whistle, and start drawing up plays for Team Clark. You want to play dirty? Fine. She'll just build her own league, or at least her own locker room, where she doesn't need to worry about flying elbows during warm-ups.
I believe it's this entire class of WNBA draftees led by Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, call Larry Bird. Ask him for advice.
Oh, I mean,
Indiana, he's already there.
You don't deserve this, Caitlin Clark. Please go play basketball somewhere else and let this league crumble, man. This is just ridiculous.
It's all speculation, sure. But when Larry Bird starts talking like this, calling out players by name, torching the league's culture, and practically offering to launch his own franchise just to keep Caitlin Clark upright, people start listening and whispering and screenshotting. Suddenly, Bird building a team around Clark doesn't sound like wild conspiracy anymore. It sounds like a halfway decent business plan. And if you're loving this breakdown of Bird's master plan, make sure you subscribe and drop Bird's word in the comments below. Because this story gets even wilder, especially when the alternative is watching the WNBA continue to fumble the most marketable athlete it's had in, well, ever.
Ratings go down 50% when she's not there. Ratings rocket through the roof when she is. Everybody has to watch these box office. If the refs are going to let people have open season on Caitlin, bump her, knock her down, throw her down, cheap shot her, it's time for the fever to wake up like Sophie Cunningham did, say, enough is enough. You're going to do that. You hit us with the feather. We're going to hit you with the crowbar right in the brain. That's what we got to do.
So, if Larry's making calls, we hope Nike's picking up, because somebody's going to build around Clark. And at this rate, it might be Bird, a startup, or Europe, but it probably won't be the W. At this point, Larry Bird is doing more for Caitlin Clark than the league she actually plays in. And honestly, it's kind of amazing. While league officials are busy monitoring the situation, which translates to refreshing Twitter and hoping it blows over, Bird's out here sounding like he's ready to draw up a 5-year plan, buy a charter jet, and personally coach Caitlin into the Hall of Fame.
Caitlin Clark, please leave this league and let it crumble. Please, this league does not deserve you. All this hate from these black people, all this hate from these lesbians, these people in the media, just go play basketball somewhere else. Your fans will follow you. We will follow you wherever you go.
If the WNBA won't build around her, maybe he will. He already defended her harder in one interview than half her teammates have on the court all season. Let's be real about this. Bird isn't just watching the games. He's analyzing tape, checking body language, and probably texting someone at High VE asking if they want to sponsor a new arena. This is the same guy who used to throw elbows at grown men just for looking at him wrong.
What's happening in WNBA is what happened when Magic and Bird went to the NBA.
I said from the very beginning, Caitlin Clark is Larry Bird with a... She plays that game. She's Michael Jordan in terms of her influence on moving the needle for this league. But her game is Larry Bird. And it's not just the shooting. You watch her for very long. Her passing is honestly as magnificent as her shooting. She makes the players around her better.
And now he's throwing verbal haymakers on behalf of a rookie who's been shoved, tripped, eye-gouged, and somehow still leads the league in class, composure, and viewership. You don't go that hard unless you see something special, or unless you're about one headline away from launching your own Clark-centric basketball universe. It's reached a point where if Larry Bird shows up courtside in sunglasses with a clipboard, no one's going to question it. Honestly, we're just waiting for the announcement. Not an ownership stake, no, we're talking executive director of Caitlin Affairs. His first order of business: trade everyone who's ever thrown a cheap shot and replace them with people who understand how to play basketball without acting like it's a cage match.
You were immediately a better player if you were on the court with Larry Bird, because he would figure out what you could do, he could see what you couldn't do, and he would get you in a position to highlight and emphasize what you did well, and he would help you succeed in that.
Bird's loyalty isn't subtle. It's loud, proud, and possibly preparing to file LLC paperwork. Now, let's talk about the moment that lit the match, the shove. The infamous Marina Mabrey, "Oops, didn't see you there while I was casually blasting your spine" shove on Caitlin Clark. It wasn't just dirty. It wasn't just unnecessary. It was the kind of move that made every retired basketball legend over the age of 50 scream at their television and wonder when sports turned into street theater.
I've never seen nothing like this before in my life, where a player gets treated this way in sports, man. I've never seen nothing like this ever, man. This is just beyond wow. Like, I'm just beyond my threshold. You don't deserve this, man. You don't deserve it. Straight up. I get the intensity in games and you know, physicality, but this is just too much, man. It's just too much.
And Larry Bird, he didn't just scream. He went full scorched earth. According to Bird, what he saw wasn't basketball, it was cowardice. His exact words: "the most cowardly act I've seen on a basketball court in decades." Now, keep in mind, this is a man who played through broken fingers, bad backs, and the psychological warfare of the 1980s NBA. He faced Rodman, Laimbeer, Mahorn, guys who would elbow you in the throat just to say hello. And even they didn't make Bird as furious as Marina Mabrey casually shoving Clark from behind while she was still trying to blink out an eye poke like a confused anime character. And what's wild is how unbothered everyone else seemed by it. Fans were outraged, sure, but where was the league response? Where was the flagrant foul, the fine, the mandatory "please don't assault the league's biggest draw" email memo? Nowhere.
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
Clark, we gonna deal with this. Let's say you play till you're 40, you're 23. That's 17 more. We gonna deal with this for 17 more years? Bro, just Caitlin Clark, just leave. Go play basketball somewhere else, man. We will follow you. We will follow you wherever you go. Let this shit crumble to the ground, man.
WNBA basketball, where anything goes.
Which is probably why Bird felt like it was up to him to become Caitlin Clark's unofficial enforcer. Because apparently, if you elbow Clark in the neck, you get a pat on the back. But if you defend her, you get called old, soft, or worse, reasonable. Now, if you thought the shove itself was bad, wait until you hear how Marina Mabrey decided to defend herself. Did she apologize? Admit maybe, just maybe, blindsiding a rookie while she was already dealing with an eye injury was a little out of line? Of course not. That would require self-awareness. Instead, Mabrey hit us with the classic poor me defense, saying, "And this is real. Damned if I do, damned if I don't." Oh, the tragedy. Imagine the emotional burden of being held accountable for a cheap shot on national television. And Larry Bird, that quote was the final straw. He wasn't just angry at the act anymore. He was livid at the attitude. Because in Bird's world, legends don't cry about consequences. They own their game. They take the hits, dish them out, and if they go too far, they say, "Yeah, that one was on me." What they don't do is pout about being misunderstood like they're auditioning for a teen drama reboot. Bird said Mabrey's reaction reminded him of players who knew deep down they couldn't keep up, so they tried to matter by getting physical. Translation: if you can't outshoot Clark, just shove her and post a cryptic quote on Instagram. But here's the kicker. Bird didn't just stop at calling out Mabrey's tactics. He basically questioned her entire resume. He implied, not so subtly, that players like her don't belong in the conversation with real competitors. Not because they're not tough, but because they confuse being reckless with being relevant. And the league letting that slide? Bird sees it as a giant flashing neon sign that says, "We don't value actual skill anymore, just noise." That's why he's talking about building something new, something Clark can actually thrive in. Because if this is the WNBA's idea of competition, Bird might need to start printing jerseys. Here's where things get wild. Because Larry Bird didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, he basically knighted her. He looked at all the chaos, the elbows, the snubs, the media hit jobs, the jealous vets, and somehow still managed to say, "She's better than all of us were." And coming from Bird, that's not just a compliment, that's basketball royalty handing you the throne and saying, "Sorry for the mess, Your Highness." Bird sees something terrifying in Clark. Terrifying for the league, that is. He sees his own intensity, his own IQ, his own ability to take a broken play and turn it into a highlight reel. But then he looks around and realizes Clark isn't just playing against defenders. She's playing against a league that can't decide if it wants to celebrate her or sabotage her. In Bird's rookie year, sure, people tried to punk him, but at least they did it to his face. With Clark, half the league is playing WWE behind her back, and the referees are apparently on lunch break. And this is why Bird is this close to starting his own Clark-centered basketball empire, because he sees what she could become. Not just the best player in the league, but the reason the league survives at all. While everyone else is treating her like a threat to their ego, Bird is treating her like the last hope for professional basketball relevance. And if the WNBA won't protect her, you better believe he's thinking about what it would look like if he did. Clark isn't just a great player, she's a generational weapon. And the fact that she's being forced to waste time dodging cheap shots instead of winning titles, Bird thinks that's basketball malpractice. Here's what really makes Bird want to throw a clipboard across the room. And this is where you need to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because this gets absolutely insane. The WNBA's complete and total silence. Marina Mabrey shoves the league's biggest star while she's literally seeing double, and the league's response is basically, "Wow, that's crazy." Anyway, no fine, no suspension, no press conference, not even a passive-aggressive tweet, just vibes at this point. You could body slam Caitlin Clark mid-layup and the league would probably issue you a gift card. Bird sees this for what it is, a giant organizational shrug. And if you know anything about Larry, you know he doesn't do apathy. This is the same guy who once played through back spasms so severe he had to lie on the sideline like a corpse between possessions. So watching league executives act like nothing's wrong while Clark is getting mauled every other quarter, that's not just embarrassing, that's a fireball offense in Bird's book. And no, he's not subtle about it. He basically called the league out for rewarding mediocrity with free reign and giving actual talent a target on their back. And here's the real kicker, the WNBA isn't just failing Clark, they're failing themselves. Bird flat out said that letting this continue sends the worst possible message to young fans. You're not telling them to work on their shot or study the game. You're telling them, if you can't beat greatness, just hit it hard enough and maybe the refs will look the other way. It's like watching someone try to grow a garden by lighting it on fire, and Bird, who built his entire legacy on skill, toughness, and competitive respect, isn't just calling this out. He's basically daring someone to fix it before he grabs a whistle and does it himself. Here's the part that makes Bird both furious and completely obsessed. Caitlin Clark isn't folding under pressure. She's thriving in it. She's getting fouled, shoved, smacked in the face, booed in every arena like she stole someone's lunch money, and she still shows up and drops dimes like it's a business meeting. According to Bird, this kind of adversity would send most players into a mid-season existential crisis. But Clark, she's treating it like fuel. Every cheap shot just adds another log to the fire. And Bird is watching it all unfold like a proud and deeply vengeful basketball dad. He said, Clark's mental toughness is off the charts. While other players are out here crying about screen time and podcast rankings, she's carrying a franchise, saving the league's ratings, and somehow still managing to keep her composure when she gets hit harder than a tackling drill. And she's 22. 20. When Bird was that age, he was still trying to survive on an Indiana State meal plan. Clark is out here surviving street fights in Connecticut and then heading to post-game interviews like nothing happened. Bird even compared her to his own rookie season, when vets tried to rough him up just to see if he was real. But the difference? He didn't have to do it while being the face of an entire league, a global marketing engine, and a human highlight reel rolled into one. Bird didn't have TikTok edits and 65 cameras on him when he took a hit. Clark does, and she doesn't flinch. That's why he keeps talking about her with that wild look in his eye. Because he knows what's coming. Not just greatness, but something that might leave every critic, hater, and elbow thrower in the dust. If she's already this good while getting assaulted in slow motion, what happens when she finally gets the freedom to just play? The fascinating thing about Bird's perspective is that he's not just seeing Clark as a victim of circumstance, he's seeing her as a test case for the entire future of professional basketball. In his mind, how the league treats Clark today determines whether basketball continues to evolve as a skill-based sport or devolves into theatrical chaos where actual talent gets buried under manufactured drama. Bird keeps emphasizing that Clark represents something the league has never seen before. A player who can transcend the sport while simultaneously elevating it. She's not just bringing new fans to the WNBA, she's creating an entirely new conversation about what women's basketball can be. And that's precisely why Bird is so protective. He understands that once-in-a-generation talents don't come around often. And when they do, you protect them at all costs, because they're not just playing for themselves, they're carrying the entire sport's future on their shoulders. What really gets Bird fired up is the short-sightedness of the league's current approach. He's watching executives and players treat Clark like she's temporary, like she's just another rookie who'll fade into the background after a season or two. But Bird knows better. He's seen what happens when a truly special player gets the support they deserve. And he's also seen what happens when they don't. The difference between those two scenarios isn't just individual success or failure, it's the difference between a league that thrives for decades and one that struggles to maintain relevance. That's why Bird's not just defending Clark's right to play without getting assaulted, he's defending the league's right to have a future worth watching. Larry Bird isn't just fighting for Caitlin Clark because she's talented or marketable. He's defending the very soul of basketball. This isn't some personal vendetta or a midlife crisis. Bird sees the WNBA at a crossroads, and is not shy about saying that if the league keeps letting cheap shots and dirty tactics fly unchecked, it's not just Clark who's in trouble, it's the entire league's survival on the line. Is basically saying the WNBA is choosing between two futures. One where skill, dedication, and real competition thrive. And another where the loudest cheap shot wins and basketball becomes just another gladiator game with less armor. Bird's clear. If the league keeps protecting mediocrity by letting players like Mabrey get away with this nonsense, the stars who actually bring fans in will start disappearing faster than a timeout when your team is down by 20. And yes, Bird probably sounds like the cranky old dude yelling at the kids to get off his lawn, but that's just because he's seen what happens when you don't protect your best players. He knows that Caitlin Clark isn't just a WNBA player. She's a lightning rod for everything the league could be. And if the league fails to protect her, it's not just a loss for Clark, it's a loss for anyone who loves basketball that actually looks like basketball. So Bird standing up here isn't just about a single shove or one bad actor. It's a full-blown declaration that the league needs to get its act together or watch its brightest future flicker out. And if that means starting a whole new team or league just to protect her, well, Bird might just be the guy to do it. At this point, who could blame him? The most intriguing aspect of this entire situation is how Bird seems to be positioning himself as more than just a defender of Clark. He's becoming a revolutionary voice for what professional basketball should look like in the 21st century. His vision goes beyond just protecting one player. He's talking about creating an environment where excellence is rewarded, where skill trumps theatrics, and where the game itself becomes the star, rather than the drama surrounding it. Bird's implicit message is that if the current league structure can't provide that environment, then maybe it's time to build something new. And honestly, when you consider Bird's track record as a player, coach, and executive, the idea of him spearheading a basketball revolution doesn't sound far-fetched at all. He's already proven he can identify talent, develop systems, and create winning cultures. Now, he's suggesting that Caitlin Clark deserves all of those things, in an organization that actually understands what they have. So, Is Larry Bird really out here drafting Caitlin Clark's fantasy team behind closed doors? Well, official word says no. But when a guy with 3 NBA championships under his belt starts talking about how the league failed its brightest star and hints at building something new,